So literally, like my first question that I wrote down was, so what are you up to? What are you doing these days? Because like you've done so much from Microsoft to Silicon Valley Bank to Molten Ventures. So what is how do you describe Bindi to someone who doesn't know her now?
Uh, I think I do a lot of things. The word I would say is I'm plural, but everything I do is still around the intersection between corporates, startups, investor, and government.
Mm-hmm.
So today, as EIC ambassador and a former board member of EIC, I call myself one of the OG board members. There's from the very beginning, back in the end of 2017. So for me, it's really about working that intersection between
Mm-hmm.
all of it. So a lot of the network I'm building today, I'll be able to take back into all the other work I'm doing. I sit on a lot of boards at the moment. I'm a bit of a
Right.
board junkie. I
Just
worked
can't stay
at,
away.
I'm not sure that's a good thing, but it's just sort of accidentally happened over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So after I left the bank formerly known as SVB, um, I think I've, over the period of time, sat on about 25 different types of boards. So from university boards, government boards, I'm now doing FTSE, so
Mm-hmm.
big publicly listed boards, startup boards, ecosystem boards. So I've really been sort of really quite busy doing a lot of
Wow.
that. But I miss operating, so watch
Mm-hmm.
this space. I might want to roll my sleeves back up and get involved into something deeply.
Okay,
So
that's a good
watch this
announcement.
space. Yeah.
That's really nice. So when you are working on this quite busy intersection that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
what are you seeing there? What's going on? What are the things that you're thinking about when you reflect on what's going on?
So I think, for example, I'll give you an example of what I was
Mm-hmm.
doing at Molten. And a lot of the stuff I was doing there was, spending time with the portfolio. I have a huge network of corporate innovation, or CVCs and
Mm-hmm.
heads of corporate innovation, and working with them to help open doors for them into, potential opportunities
Mm-hmm.
with the corporates. But then if you think about how VCs can work with corporates, it could be co-investing. The corporates could be LPs.
Yes.
The corporates could be, acquirers. And actually, most importantly, they could be customers. And revenue equals valuation. So you kind of work at it at different multiple levels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one example of how I was doing VC in corporate and startup in corporate. I think here with the EIC, I was always bringing in the innovation voice, the big corporate voice,
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem voice, the private sector and how they're working across it. And then here, I'm just running into different policy people, a lot of my former fellow board members, and some of them work in university and research. Some of them have run big startup
Mm-hmm.
ecosystems on behalf of governments. Some are from large corporates. So it's about crossing that bridge. So I think it's about speaking the language.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
the other comment I'd make is I see more of that collaboration amongst all of those four,
Okay.
way more than I ever did back when I met you, way back when, like 10, 15 years ago. So I think it's good. We're all learning to interact with each other. So it's,
Yeah.
it's, it's quite heartwarming to see.
So I'm not sure that you're like bringing a message, but like if you were to bring a message to EIC, to the policy people from the, let's say, corporate sector, what would that message be at this point?
Um, I think if there are things they can do to make it easier for the corporates to work with the startups, I don't know what that would be, but
Mm-hmm.
to really make it easier for them to engage. Because, corporates, now that I sit on two large corporate boards, I've learned that you really are, you've got to do what's right for the shareholder, you've got to drive shareholder value. And often innovation's not top,
Mm-hmm.
and innovation is not necessarily in the boardroom. I'm doing my best to make that happen. Like on the corporate boards I sit on, I am the voice of innovation. But they're really thinking about more of the day to day. And if the EIC can make it easier for that kind of engagement to happen, I don't know whether it's a policy or some form of funding to allow pilots to happen
Mm-hmm.
between the two, lowering different type of barriers that may happen, because of regulatory or policy reasons. make it easier for the collaboration. And
Okay.
I think a lot of the people here in this room can really impact that.
And then from the startup point of view, is that something that startup policy is lacking at this point in your view? What do you think the startups expect from the policymakers?
Look, the startups want to be able to build their product. They want to be able to go to market. They want customers, and they want funding. And a lot of those people are in this room. So make the connection and help the startups get there and help them be successful. And think about the barriers that might get in the way from the regulatory policy, taxation, legal, geographical barriers, and try to remove them if you can. But actually just bringing everyone into the room here makes a difference. I would say do more speed networking and I know that's a boring word, but just do more of that. And the startups want the funding and they want to prove that there's a product market fit. And then that's when the VCs come in the room, right? Because there's a product market fit, there's revenue, then there's a scaling, which you can scale across the EU 27. And then obviously to the UK, because I'll always fly a flag for my home country as well. And I think it's about that collaboration across, for me, the 4 core components of innovation ecosystem.
Right. And one of the very big topics right now that are being discussed in policy circles is this sovereignty and strategic autonomy of Europe as a strategic autonomy of Europe as a region. Is this something that you see discussed in your circles a lot? As in, like, that we need to have our own digital infrastructure, our own platforms, our own technology foundations.
That's a tough one, right? I think it's tough in this world of big tech, where the world is basically run by the big American tech and the big Chinese tech, right? What was the phrase way back in the day? GAFABAT, Google, Apple, Facebook, which is now Meta, Amazon. What else is there? Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, right? So I got them all. And I guess it's just making it easier for those kind of companies and technologies to happen here. But we're really far behind in UK and Europe. And I don't know how we're going to get there. I'm not trying to be cynical or anything, but I think we've got a long way to go. And we've got to remove the barriers that enable these founders to get there. I think Europe is full of the technical talent.
Absolutely.
We're full of the commercial talent. But I think the attitude, both in US and China, are very different. And the attitudes to success and attitudes to failure. Failure doesn't really matter in the US.
Yeah.
People just dust themselves off and start again. And then they spin the story into something and then they just move on and go for it. And I think Europeans tend to be less like that. And we need to just be more going for it, for lack of a better phrase.
Do you think it's different between the UK and continental Europe?
Don't make me say anything. The reality is, I think UK ecosystem is way larger than a lot of the ecosystems in Europe. I think UK does look at modeling itself from an innovation ecosystem across the pond to Europe and rest of world, or UK and USA and rest of world. Let me get all my countries right. London is one of the top ecosystems globally. It's top 3, definitely. I was writing a presentation on something, and London is one of the top startup cities in the world. But I think Europe is ambitious, and that's why I've been working with the Startup Europe team since 2015, and then the EIC since 2017, and I continue to be an ambassador. But I think, continental Europe is absolutely catching up. I don't think I would have seen this much buzz even 5 years ago here in Brussels. So it's great to see, and long may it continue. And then you see cities like Lisbon or Paris or Berlin, Munich, Stockholm, Madrid, Barcelona, Amsterdam. You just see all these cities, and it's just growing and growing and growing and growing. Like, remember the days of Next Web back in 2010, and how small those conferences were. and look at them now. And you look at Web Summit in Lisbon or a Slush in Helsinki, and it's a global epicenter. People are coming to mainland Europe. So I think we're getting there, and I'm positive about it.
Yeah, but the thing is that the things that I'm seeing is, for example, with the EIC, right? It's a focus on deep tech, on fundamental tech, on something that's very research heavy, which is great. It's amazing.
Well, that's
but at the
strength.
same time, like, how do we get also the consumer type of platforms and applications, for lack of a better word, that would compete effectively against the Facebooks and Googles and Microsofts of the world? I'm really not sure if that is even possible and what would be necessary to create that kind of companies. What do you think?
I mean, shouldn't Europe focus on what it's great at?
Mm-hmm.
And Europe is good at deep tech and innovation and research in this space. And if you look at where the fundamentals of the EIC program came about, I was reminiscing at the lunch just now. It came out because you look at, this was a number back in 2017, so this was a long time ago, where the top 25 back then phrased internet companies on earth were either American or Chinese, but where are the Europeans? And where are the European strengths? So I think EIC did right by saying, let's focus on what we know we're strong at. And so we should just focus on that and deliver. And let's not forget, deep tech takes a long time to commercialize. It takes a long time to go to market. And EIC is plugging that gap. And now I think investors are starting to sit up and see, well, there's some pretty strong companies coming out of this program. Great, these are homegrown talent. And I think the other thing I would say is, we all talk about the Skype mafia, right? And then the Skype mafia gave birth to Wise. And then Wise has, if you look at the Atomico report, the startup report across Europe, European mafias are a thing. So if you look at, startups being created from employees that have left, all the unicorns, so N26, Monzo, Revolut, Wise, all of the big unicorns popping up, Zalando, and then employees are jumping out and creating their own startups. I know in the deal room, the VCs are like, well, these people have scaled and been part of the scale, and now they're jumping out and hoping to do it on their own. They're always going to look at those companies. So I think it's just a matter of lag, and that time will come. So it's getting there. But I love that chart. Like, I remember off the top of my head, like, Wise gave birth to 22 companies. And Revolut was in the 30-something. And if someone leaves Revolut and is creating something, we sure as heck are going to look at it, because this person went through the scale to create the amazing size that it's become. So they're going to take that skill set and build something on their own, and they see a gap in the market. So I think, let's not write Europe off yet. Let's not write UK off yet. I just think it's going to take time. And deep tech is what we're good at. So let's focus on it and deliver. And it's a long route to market. We just have to be patient, I think.
And from your perspective as the venture partner, what are you seeing happening in terms of the AI hype, for example? Have you invested in any AI-powered, AI-focused companies yourself?
I mean, every company now is powered by AI, right? They've switched from the hype of Web3. I mean, VCs invest in waves, right?
Yeah.
So AI is the latest wave. And but AI powers everything now. Like, I can't imagine my day without using some form of AI, to do some form of productivity or some insight building. Or I sit in a lot of AI chat groups, and one with developers, and I just can't keep up with the pace of how they're developing. I know founders that have had 3-year roadmaps, and they're executing on their product roadmaps within 6 months, because they've trained the AI to build this for them, at least a really good first MVP. And I think that pace is going to continue. So I think we're at the beginning. I think we don't know what we haven't seen yet. But I think, the investment will continue. yeah, I'm positive about that as well. So
There's also this argument, though, that the entire generative AI hype is basically siphoning money from the market that would otherwise be invested in more, let's say, useful applications, including deep tech, but also others. Is that would you agree with that? What do you think?
I think that's weird. That says to me that comment question says, yeah, there is a finite pool of money, but the the VC money is always going to go after the innovation, right? And the innovation right now happens to be in the AI space. We're not going to necessarily maybe back the next big LLM because the big tech companies are doing it. But what kind of unique, relevant business model are you building on top of that LLM? What are some real practical things corporates need? I can tell you, hand on heart, for example, customer center and customer service is way up there for any large enterprise. And there's so much technology around voice AI, for example, and how it can analyze the conversation and, give advice to the customer service agents about which direction to take the conversation in with the customer. Also to say, if it's a regulated industry, you shouldn't do that because that might be deemed as selling and you're not regulated. To, oh, this customer is unhappy about that, and the AI engine can really summarize that. I'm constantly using a lot of this to summarize meeting notes and, to summarize, well, what are the actions for the meeting? It's game changing.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the way I think about it, is it's the next wave of innovation and how are you using it? I don't believe it's a zero-sum game at all.
So you think it's justified that so much investment is going in that direction?
Well, you could have asked me this question 7 years ago, and you could have said, well, do you think it's justified all the money is going into, what was hot back then? Sort of.
I mean, if we think about blockchain, for example, it
Yeah,
was totally,
blockchain and
totally, it was
Web3.
totally not justified. It was totally
Yeah.
not justified. There is no
but-
use for blockchain at all in Web3.
Yeah.
So that's why.
That was the hype like 3 years ago,
Yeah.
right? It was all blockchain and Web3, and they're all the blockchain Web3 kids at Davos, and now it's the AI kids at Davos, on all the side events. And before that, it was like, VR, AR type of thing. And look at your face is hilarious. But back then, like 7 years ago, all the VCs were throwing their money after that, right? So it is about putting your money.
But then like if we think that the current generative AI hype will go the same way as AR VR
I
hype
hope
and
not.
blockchain
I
and
don't
Web3.
think it will. I think it's going to be practical, right? Let's hope it's practical. I look at how AI is impacting developer productivity just through the chat groups that I'm in. And it's extraordinary. Like a 3-year technical roadmap delivered in 6 months. That's extraordinary. That pace is great. A corporate needs to, build some form of software because they decide to build and not buy. The developers in-house will no longer have a 3-year drama building it out. They can do it really quickly if they're learning how to work with the AI. And I'm going to be part of the hype and go, prompt engineering really is where it's at. I love having fun times prompting. I've been going through a phase of like, oh, I'm building a slide deck and I'm going to prompt it to make some great photos for me. And then obviously OpenAI released was it 3 or 4 days ago, they released their picture generation engine. And that, I've had a real riot. Like I posted a photo of me in skis. I was like, can you make this more like The Simpsons or more like the Minions or whatever? And they did come back saying, well, there's some, what's the word? There's some, copyright infringement. But okay, if you want to do Pokemon, we can do Pokemon-like graphic. So I quite like my skiing in Pokemon style, quite fun. But do you see what I mean? Like, I think that to me as well is quite impressive. All of a sudden, non-technical people are more productive. And I think that, for me, is also what generative AI and AI is about. People like me who are not technical can start to do things. And it leaves the truly technical people free to focus on building that next generation of things. So let's see. I don't think it's like AR, VR hype. Not even close.
No, certainly.
Yeah.
Now, Bindi, thank you so much for taking the time and answering the questions. I'm very much going to watch this space, and I wish you the best of luck with everything that you're up to.
Thank you, and I hope I'm not wrong. Don't play this interview 5 years down the road, and you'll laugh at me going, Bindi, you were wrong.
We'll set it to self-destruct.
All right, so good to see you again.
Thank you.
Take care.